I had people go on social media and say that I was on drugs, that I was having a nervous breakdown, that I had been brainwashed, that I was having that I was mentally ill. But I never had someone come to me and say, help me understand what you're experiencing.
Singer Joyvilla was the talk of this year's Grammys.
Her I Make the Static album.
Pro-life singer. #1 on iTunes and Amazon. Political run maybe in her future.
Conservative woman who is sharing my beliefs, unifying for the country and unifying under our president. Swamp needs to be drained when Hollywood is just rehashing the same old thing and they're patting themselves on the back about it. I'd like to use the publicity for something positive. There's always going to be backlash whenever you make a bold statement, whenever you be yourself. And for me as an artist, I want to use my platform to really reach people on the level that I feel is real.
Pop culture, politics, and entertainment. This is the Joyvilla Show with your host, Joyvilla.
Joytribe, it's Joyvilla here. My guest today is very special. I'm sure you've recognized him. He's just gone viral with his Walkaway campaign, #Walkaway. Brandon Straka, thank you so much for being on the Joyvilla Show.
Actually, it's pronounced Villa.
That's right, Villa. Excuse me. So I'm pronouncing his last name right, and he's pronouncing my last name right.
That's right.
Villa Show.
Yes.
So, for people who don't know, now I've been following you for a while, so I've gotten very invested in the Walkaway movement. In fact, I am a product of walking away from the Democratic Party. But what is the Walkaway movement?
What the Walkaway campaign is, I was a lifelong liberal. I was a lifelong Democrat. And for me, my red pill moment happened 2016 election of Donald Trump. For me, there was like my relationship with liberalism, and then there was my relationship with the Democratic Party. Right. Now, liberalism, I had been becoming increasingly uncomfortable with for years. At the time, I didn't have the language to understand how I felt. I didn't really understand what identity politics was. I would often hear the right talk about political correctness, but I was sort of like, what are they talking about all the time?
Like, what is that, right?
But meanwhile, I was experiencing it because I was a liberal hanging out with other liberals. And I watched, for years as it was like, we went from being like, let's fight for equality for all people to we hate white people. We hate men. If you're a straight white man, you should just shut your mouth. And I'm like,
right.
What's happening over here? So I was becoming more and more uncomfortable with just the attitudes, just the nastiness and the kind of the oppressiveness of what was happening on the left.
You're gay, you're a hairstylist, you're in New York City, so you're surrounded by like-minded individuals, and you were crying after Donald Trump got elected. Is that true?
Totally. I mean, it's not only is it true, but I will always, until the end of time, keep those videos on Facebook for anyone to see. So
you actually recorded yourself crying?
Oh yeah. I was doing live
it.
videos. Yeah. And it was, I think that most of them took place the week of the election. Like one of them I know I did like the day after. And I was just sitting there like with my coffee being like, we are so screwed. Oh my God.
Just drinking, just liberal tears, literal liberal tears into your coffee.
Drinking my own liberal tears. I was crying because I was horrified. I mean, I was horrified
for sure.
And the reason why
I think you were legitimately, because I have liberals that watch this show as well, that listen, to the Joyvilla podcast and the YouTube show, and they ask me questions. I always say I'm open to hearing other people's opinions, but I think there's legitimate concerns if you believe what the media has been telling you, that he's a racist, that he's a homophobe, that he's a misogynist. I mean, of course, if that was all true, every right-minded person would be horrified.
Exactly.
How did you find out that was not true?
It was a combination of things. The first was that after he got elected, first thing I saw was probably around 2 or 3 in the morning. The Huffington Post had a picture of him and it said, "Nightmare, President Trump. Gay people expected to lose their rights. Millions expected to lose their health insurance." And then it said ... and other possible headlines from a Trump presidency. So they were predicting headlines that might happen now that You know, I mean, isn't that insane?
It's insane. He hadn't even officially sworn in. He just got, the votes were in and he is our next president. And all of a sudden he's Hitler incarnate.
Yeah. Oh my Lord. They started really churning out those stories about, the hate crime spiking, white supremacist numbers are growing.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I used to say, I tell people all of a sudden there's like a hooded white supremacist under every black person's bed, just waiting to, string you up. I mean, that's how I'm like, that's not real. That's not happening. There's, there's like 25 of those jerks and no.
Right. Exactly. And then for those of us in the gay community, they really went after us with the what ifs because they, the headlines started coming out constantly. Trump expected to sign executive order repealing gay rights. Trump expected to sign executive order reversing gay marriage. But these things would never happen. Couldn't
do that. Even if he wanted to do it, he's not the one deciding factor. We don't live under a dictatorship. So even if he wanted to, which he doesn't, because he's spoken out for gays for Trump, and he's been he was a liberal for a long time who just loved his country. And he realized in the late 1980s that, the democracy that we have now is only because of Republicans for keeping it that way, constitutionalists. But he's like the most, socially liberal person, for God's sake. He would never do that. Even if he wanted to, though, they left out that he can't by himself suddenly snap his fingers.
Right. Well, this is where, in retrospect, I can look back and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, did I lose my mind? Like, this is Donald Trump. Like, we've known Donald Trump for 30 plus years. It's like the idea that he suddenly turned into Hitler or, like the most evil man that ever lived. I'm like,
right.
Why did I turn my brain over to CNN like that? I don't understand.
I was raised conservative, but then as I became a teenager, I sort of rejected my parents' conservative Bush era conservatism. And I voted for Obama his first term. And I thought I was doing the right thing because every news source told us, Brandon, right? We're doing the right thing. Like you said, we're fighting for equality, for Black rights, for gay rights, for Hispanic rights, for women's rights. We're doing the right thing. We're bringing social justice.
Your mother is African-American, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And she's a conservative?
She was a conservative. Both my parents passed away, but she was very much a conservative. Sang in the church. My dad was a pastor. I'm a pastor's kid. Both my parents extremely conservative. My dad, very outspoken how we should abolish the IRS and, the government is not our friend. Big pharma is not our friend. I grew up with these very strict conservative views. I never thought anything of them. I thought, well, of course that's truth, because also my parents would point to the sources. I would read a lot of stuff. So we loved Reagan growing up. I always loved Reagan. And I did love Bush until really, suddenly everyone hated Bush. And I was like, yeah, I was kind of wrong to be Republican. Like, I don't have a heart. Everyone's a liberal. Maybe I should be that way. And it was an indoctrination really after moving into Hollywood, during my early 20s. That's when I started changing my vernacular, sort of picking up the same terms and very misogynistic. Oh yeah. Very victimizing, very this. And it became a slow sort of like, oh, well, this is how we all think in the industry. It's crazy. It's gang mentality. It's a mob.
It is, but don't you think? See, I think you sort of touched, I think, on a good point when you're talking about your parents, and I think you said that you kind of went your own path despite what they had taught you. Don't you think that also the Democratic Party did sort of an effective job of almost making it seem like conservatism was really lame and something that your parents do?
Totally.
And that,
it kind of was in those days, Brandon. We didn't have anybody, in the 80s, at least you had, like Reagan, and he was cool. Like he was like a superhero. He was an actor, and now he's a president, and that was awesome. We had Bush, which I'm not a fan of Bush anymore, even though I'm a conservative, because I just feel like that was the old neocon, the old Republican heavy, not the new, fresh and sexy, where I do see the conservative party going towards.
Me too. And this is where I think that a lot of people who are still very hung up on sticking with the left, no matter, how far they go, they're not getting it. Like, we're not talking about the Republican Party of like 1992, what I mean? Like the world has changed. The world has moved forward. And it's like, I think it's important for people like you and people like me and, people who I think are younger and come from diverse backgrounds to sort of explain to people, this is not the same, Republican Party when we're thinking of like 90-year-old white men and, like,
we have to burn the books and that rap music. And, let's face it, there's been some weird stuff Republicans have done fighting against gays and, all this stuff. It doesn't make sense anymore for this changing generation. Yet I feel like people like you and I, we're millennials. We're hip, we're sexy, we're cool. We really shouldn't be Republicans if that was true. It's funny because I think Republicanism and conservatism under Trump has gone back to basics. What do we really believe? Well, we want limited government. We want individual sovereignty as citizens. We want lower taxes. I say abolish the IRS. I heard a couple guys saying that. I was like, yes, we really need to do that because it's not fair. It's not lawful. And why would we eat the rich? I even looked at in my, sort of Democrat SJW-ness, I looked at Bernie because I thought he was a populist. I said, oh, well, Bernie is like the people's choice. And he's not a Democrat. He's not a Republican. He's just like a populist. I really thought he was more an independent. I was a registered independent. I ended up just losing a lot of my femininity, losing a lot of what makes me, being very like hard and argumentative and being like, oh, well, yeah, we have to stand up for those who can't, blah, blah, blah. And just sort of getting into fights with people and more often than not, just being sort of weak on why. Like if you were to ask me, well, why did you vote for Obama? I would have been like, well, because he's black.
Yeah.
Really. And now I see so many smart millennials like yourself, like me, who've done the research. Like, when you walk away, you have to do a lot of research. Can you tell me about what research? What did you look at? What did you find that made you go, okay, I'm walking away?
I grew up in a little town in Nebraska, so a lot of people on my social media are obviously going to probably be Trump supporters. And I was like, why did you guys do this? Like, why would you do this? I don't understand. Mm-hmm. Then finally, one day, one person that I knew from my childhood reached out to me because it was on this particular day I was posting about how he mocked the reporter's disability before a cheering crowd. And, and she wrote to me.
How dare he?
Yeah. She wrote to me privately and she sent me a clip to a YouTube video that said debunking that Trump mocked the disabled reporter. And it was a compilation of footage that showed him doing that exact same voice and that exact same gesture numerous times over the years when he was making fun of any person who was caught in a lie or doing something shady, who was groveling because they were being sneaky. It was really obvious, like, oh, he didn't make fun of that guy's disability. He was making fun of the fact that man who happened to be disabled was caught in a lie.
Right.
It was the first time in my life, Joy, that I was like, the light just started, like, it was like the door just cracked open and a little bit of light came through. And I was like, something is not as it seems. Like something is wrong. If they took this moment out of context and spun a story with it, what else did they do? And I went back and I revisited everything. I went back to the Mexicans are rapists. I went back to advocating for the sexual assault of all women that he says is okay. Like
the videotape, right? Yeah. It's funny because once you see that one hole in their whole, conjecture, it all crumbles down. Once you see that one, you pull the string and the whole sweater just falls apart. It's not a real sweater.
That's a great analogy. I'm going to use that in the future. Yeah.
Just hashtag joyvilla, hashtag it.
Villa. It was, it's like that little thread was pulled and you're right. Everything started to unravel at that moment. It turned my world upside down. I was talking to friends of mine and reaching out to, just saying like, what do you think about this? Like, look at this. And people were getting so angry with me. And so just like, what are you doing? What do you do? What? So you love Trump now? And I was
even if you just ask, just asking, you can't even ask, you can't question. Being a liberal is you can't question anything.
Right.
And I noticed that too. You talked about it, just this sort of wall of hate. We hate them, period. Yes. And that's wrong on either side, because I've seen it a little on the right side too. And I always call it out. I don't care if you're on the left or the right. If you're going to be like, oh, we're the best, and those liberal, libtard, snowflake, hate.
But it doesn't build bridges.
It doesn't build bridges. And what I see in your movement is you're building bridges. You're giving people a chance to share their walkaway story. Yeah. And to post that online. So what is the whole movement started exploding, right?
Right.
Tell me a little bit about how the movement became what it is today.
What I discovered is when I was trying to talk to people about it, I was getting met with so much resistance and hostility. And like you said, even that wall of hate. So I would go to bed at night with my dirty little secret, and I would just like get on YouTube and start watching videos. And I was watching debates, Tucker Carlson debate a liberal. And I was seeing like, suddenly, for the first time, all the holes that I had been finding in liberalism were making sense. I was like, wow, I get why this has been so confusing all these years, is because it never made sense in the first place. This is an ideology that does not make sense. So I started speaking out more and more about it. And the more I would speak out about it, the more people started cutting me off, started unfriending me. I wasn't getting invited to parties anymore.
Oh my gosh.
I was getting slandered on social media.
You were the same person.
Same person. Just asking questions. I wasn't even trying to really throw it in people's faces. If anything, I was trying to say to them, look, I understand how upset you are because I've been this upset too. I understand how you're melting down about Trump. I'm trying to come to you and say, listen, maybe you don't have to be so upset because maybe things aren't as they seem. Maybe, all this freaking out that we're doing, maybe we don't need to be so upset. But they were like, they rejected it. It was like they were saying, but no, don't show me something that it's going to make it harder for me to hate him. And I was like, this is bizarre.
It's irrational. It's irrational.
And that's when it occurred to me that this is like an addiction. I mean, it's like people are addicted. Like they want to tune into CNN now. They want to tune into MSNBC. Yeah. They want to hear Rachel Maddow tell them every night what they should be upset about.
Right.
And what he's doing to brown children in cages and what he,
it's like a science fiction novel, really. It's like another planet.
Like a science fiction soap opera.
A science fiction space opera, the space lord has come down. He's attacking, he's caging our children, he's killing our women. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You really paint this picture so beautifully. I think this is the story of millions of Americans, if not globally.
So that leads us now to the beginning of 2018, which is when I had, at this point, I lost a lot of friends. I was very, very lonely in the year of 2017 because the majority of people had turned their backs on me and didn't want to, be associated with me because I had been openly speaking out about like, look, I think I'm turning my back on liberalism in the Democratic Party.
And you were still just questioning at that point. You didn't say, I'm totally a Trumplican. No. You just said, I think I'm moving towards this, which is very casual to me. I mean, if anyone were to tell me, I think I'm going to become a liberal instead of a conservative, I'd still love that person.
Yeah. And as a thinking person, you would probably ask the person, why, tell me about it. I had people go on social media and say that I was on drugs, that I was having a nervous breakdown, that I had been brainwashed, that I was having that I was mentally ill. But I never had someone come to me and say, help me understand what you're experiencing.
That's so hurtful. My God. What did you think when people reacted? Your so-called friends reacted that way. Trust me, I have a lot of the same experience, but how did you feel in that moment?
Well, it makes you feel, it kind of makes you feel dirty because it's like, I knew internally, for me, it was almost like a replay of the gay thing. Because I was like, I knew I'm not doing anything wrong. I knew that. I was like, I'm not doing anything wrong, but I know that everybody thinks that I am. And it makes you kind of ask that question, like, would I be better off to just keep all of this to myself? I mean, I even considered at one point, I'm like, maybe I'll just pretend to be a liberal. And then when I go in the voting booth, I'll just vote my conscience, which is what a lot of people did. That's why the poll numbers were so off. So I thought to myself, I'm going to make a video and I'm going to just tell my truth to the whole world. What am I going to say? Like, what's my message? How do I do this? And I was jogging one day and it was like the words just like came over me like a tidal wave. I heard in my head, once upon a time, I was a liberal. And then I just got chills. And the script just wrote itself. And then I got home from jogging and I sat down and I wrote the whole script out in about 30 minutes. And I got a couple of my buddies together and we shot that video. And then after we shot the video, that was it. I mean, it was literally just gonna be me putting a video out and being like, here you guys go. Like,
just your coming out story. It's like me on the red carpet at the Grammys in my dress that said, Make America Great Again, at Trump on the back. That was my coming out story. And it was a little bit like F you to all the haters. Yeah. Everything you experience, I totally can relate to, but within Hollywood, luckily I'm an independent artist. So managers and whatever, if they were anti-Trump, I fired them. I didn't rely on them, but it was painful. It's a very painful process.
That dress was so awesome, by the way. I mean, you were like, Yeah, I mean, I love looking at pictures of you on that red carpet. And I remember, because I didn't know who you were at that time, and I remember because I think that you made right there on the Drudge Report, because I read the Drudge Report every day.
Love it.
Yeah, and your picture was like right there, and I was like, who is this girl? I was like, oh. I was like, and I wasn't even a conservative yet, but I was like, damn, she's got balls. Whoa.
That was my walk away. It was very public. It was very Joyvilla style. That's how I do it.
Yeah.
So I love that you came out. I love what you've built and what you've done. So
thank you.
Obviously, I mean, it's funny because when you do that, when you throw caution to the wind, I get emails and letters from fans every day who are like, how can I be bold like you? How can I be brave like you? My job depends on it. My wife, my family, my kids, all these different things. Like my society is built around me being a liberal. I can't come out. I said, well, you have to make the decision. Is it worth being closeted, being constricted, being held under, suppressed? Is it worth that? Is it worth your sanity? Because maybe you're not in the right job. Or maybe you don't have to do the same thing I did, but you're going to have to somehow be able to speak your beliefs and talk to your mother-in-law. Maybe it's your husband, maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your boss who thinks against what you think. And you're going to have to say why you believe in it. And I always tell people, share a personal story. It's hard to argue with somebody's emotions and their personal story.
Right.
And just agree to disagree at the end of it. Don't get into an argument, but be able to assert your beliefs. Otherwise, you will be trapped forever.
Yeah, that's so true and so brilliant what you just said. And that's a perfect transition into talking about the campaign, because I agree with you completely. When I created my video and I was putting it out there, I thought to myself, wait, there's something more here. There's more than just me sticking my story out there and being like, just for my friends and my people. I know in my heart that there are thousands, if not tens and hundreds of maybe millions of people who are feeling exactly the same way that I'm feeling. I know it. I know that I'm not alone.
Yes.
But I thought, there's a reason why they call this group the silent majority, because they have been intimidated. I think they've been threatened. They've been bullied, and they've just been smashed down for so long by the liberal media. And I think, liberals get a huge pass in our culture. They do. Yeah. I mean, we've seen that they can tweet what they want. They can say what they want. They can commit acts of violence and vandalism.
Absolutely. We even see the acceptance of pedophilia. We see the acceptance of joking about pedophilia. They can keep their jobs until we all say this is not right, but they can do gross acts against humanity. And I'm just joking. They can still keep their late night TV shows. Yep.
Or their jobs at the New York Times. Yeah. But these people, I think, in the middle of the country, they see this, and they've gotten the message loud and clear that they are not safe to even tell the truth about who they are.
Right.
And so their stories have been hijacked by the people on the left and liberal media who's labeled them racists and bigots and whatever, and they've just had to take it. Yeah. And I thought to myself, I'm going to do something about this. And so when I put out my video, I created something called the Hastag Walkaway campaign. And it's everywhere now, but it started on Facebook, and that's really where the home base of it is. And I encourage anybody who hasn't yet checked it out to go to Facebook, look up the Hashtag Walkaway campaign group page. And what it is, it's a testimonial campaign. And it's people on the left who are telling their video testimonials about why they're walking away, why they can no longer tolerate the hostility, the name calling, the violence, the viciousness that's happening on the left and the Democratic Party that supports it. But what's even more amazing, Joy, is that people on the right, I've said to people on the right, look, this is your moment. It's time for the silent majority to become unsilent. You guys have to tell your stories, and you have to take the narrative back about who you truly are, because it's enough of this. Just like you were saying, I mean, people are afraid to push back, or they're afraid to respond, and they've just been taking it. But yes, I understand why that's happened, Joy. But it's also the fact that that's happened is that's what's led us to where we are today.
Absolutely.
They've got to speak up. And
enough is enough. If we don't speak up, then we'll forever be committing this crime of, I can't say anything. But there's more of us than people think. There's more of us than them.
That's right.
And speaking up, it's not about reacting with violence. I always tell, my Joytribe, don't react the same way they do. Otherwise, we just put ourselves at that low level. They used to say, oh, well, we go low, Michelle Obama, we go high. They go low, we go high. We're the actual ones going high. We're the actual ones saying, I'm just going to be truthful. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to speak to you as a human being. I'm going to share with you my story. Even though you're going to be yelling at me, calling me names. I mean, I'm called I'm a black white supremacist because I support our president. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I just learned a new word this week that I've been being called. I'd never heard this word before. A quisling.
Oh, I never heard
this word. A quisling.
No.
Let me read you the definition because it's good.
Oh boy.
Hold on. I think you'll appreciate this. So I am a quisling, which is a person who betrays his or her own country by aiding an invading enemy, often serving later in a puppet government. Fifth columnist. So this is what I was being called by the gay community in an article that came out on Hell Road. That I'm a quisling.
A quisling. I feel like they just made it up. I mean, it's crazy. It's so crazy because I'm a hotep. That's also someone who's just like, doesn't know really what is happening in the black community. I don't
get that one. Where does that?
You don't get the racial stuff. I get a lot from other blacks, unfortunately, who are Democrats, and from other, like I'm a race betrayer. So they love to do, because we have identity politics, right? So they're going to go to your sexuality as if you're supposed to do and think and act a certain way simply because you're gay, right? You're no longer just yourself. You have to act like they want. A hotep is somebody who betrays the race, who thinks they're enlightened, but they're not really enlightened. But we see a lot of there's Hotep Jesus, which is a black conservative who's sort of taken the phrase and used it as a positive thing.
I love him.
So a hotep, it's been used as, I love him too, been used as an insult, but he's using it as hotep as enlightened.
He's the guy who went into Starbucks.
He's the guy who went into Starbucks. He's incredible. I love him too. I mean, we are the coolest out here. When you look at who's got the most diversity, who looks the coolest. I mean, I'm a recording artist. You're a hairstylist out in New York City. We're living the dream here.
I know it.
And we both have this sort of cross, sort of the same people in our midst, because I think for you, what I see is you're all about positivity. You're all about communication. I'm all about positivity. The more that we can communicate and join together, the bigger our movement becomes.
Right. And I think that you and I have that in common. That's a bond that I feel with you. And I think I've always felt with you is that I can tell that your heart comes from a place of positivity and kind of building bridges. The only real examples that I've had up until this point of gay conservatives are Milo, and so I was like, well,
that's it.
And believe me, in my private life, I'm very sarcastic. I love to make crass jokes. That's who I am.
Right.
But I'm like, I think the world has seen that. I don't think it builds bridges. I don't think it's doing any. And so I thought I think there's a better way to affect a more positive change, because what I really want to do more than anything, even more than I want people to think that I'm funny and outrageous and whatever, is
right.
that I want.
Because you're not a troll. You're not a troll. The trolling thing people have seen. You really want to help.
I want to help.
It's not about you. And you've said several times to me, I don't think of myself as a celebrity, which is incredible. It shows that you'll do whatever it takes for this movement. And that we are going to see certain people in the movement and in every movement and anything who are larger than life personalities, celebrities, and that's fine for them. But what about everybody else? You know, even though we do have a platform, and I am a celebrity because I'm doing the artist thing, and I'll take that title. I'll take it. But I'm also a normal woman. Yeah, exactly. You are, now that you've been on the Joyvilla show, you are a bona fide celebrity. But I mean, also we're speaking for normal people. We're not about, like you said, we're not out to just shock or just to be crazy or to troll. You really, truly want to help other people who are trapped in that system, thinking like we were, just a short time ago, thinking we're doing the right thing, because there's good people who are trapped in a bad system. That's what the Democratic Party is. It's a bad system. It simply does not work.
It doesn't work.
I think it's so important. The next step is, where are these people going to walk away, and now where are they going to walk to?
Right.
Do you have a plan for that, or do you have an idea?
Yes and no. What I always say is that Walkaway is a journey, not a destination. So I like don't. That. Yeah, because what I'm not ever trying to do is lead people out of groupthink and into more groupthink. Right. You know, that's not the goal here. So what it is I want to lead people out of liberalism, and I want to lead people out of the Democratic Party because, as you said, it's a terrible system. It doesn't work. Yeah. And liberalism is an ideology that keeps people confined into groupthink and oppression, and it oppresses independent thought. So when I say Walkaway is a journey, what it is about taking people out of something that's not good, it's not working, but encouraging them to do their own research, encouraging them to read or watch videos and to find out the truth about what's going on. Don't just listen to CNN. Don't just listen to Rachel Maddow and the New York Times. Find out for yourself what's really going on. And honestly, I don't care where you go. If you decide that you've researched the Republican platform and the Republican point of view and you think it's terrible, don't become a Republican.
Right.
If you want to be an independent, if you want to be a libertarian, if you want to do this is your story to write for yourself. This is your journey. So
Amen. I just had to validate that. That is so beautiful. What you said right there. You don't care where they walk away to. It is their story. That's right. Exactly. You said it so perfectly and succinctly. That's what the media is not going to tell you. They're going to tell you what to think. And even some people on the right are going to tell you what to think. And you can never be right enough for some people. And you can never be left enough, we know, for many people. So it's not about that. It really is about a personal sovereignty, a personal journey.
That's right.
You could be, some issues you may lean a little more left, and some issues you may lean a little more right. But it's your issues, it's your leaning, it's what you believe, and you vote with your conscience. And it doesn't have to be the same party every ticket. I mean, that's really what Trump taught me. I didn't say, oh, well, now I'm a Republican until many months later, until I researched the Republican Party like you did. I knew I was a Trumplican. I knew I was like, whatever this guy's doing, I'm doing. Because I love what he says. I love what he's doing. I love how he's standing up for American values. And then I researched and I was like, well, I'm actually conservative. I mean, I might be more libertarian on some things, whatever. I'm a moderate on other things. I'm not caught up in the titles. But the truth is, once you know what you're not, then you can look and see what you are.
That's right. We all have the same potential for outcome if you work hard, if you try hard, if you study, if you educate yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the American dream. And here we have a gay guy and a Black Latina woman who are both Trumpers and Republicans. And, I mean, that's crazy. It must make the left's head explode because we don't make sense.
I really, really encourage people to please check out the Hastag Walkaway campaign group page on Facebook. You join the group, see all the video testimonials and read all the incredible, and they're amazing. They're so amazing. Follow me at US Minority. That's on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. It's at US Minority. And that's how you're going to find calls to action, how you can get involved in the campaign, how you can help us out.
Joytribe, you heard it here. Definitely get involved. Check out this incredible movement. This is really incredible.
Thanks, Joy.
I'm so honored to know you. Thank you for giving me so much of your time, sharing these brilliant ideas. There's no mystery why you've gone viral, because what you say is your truth. It's a lot of people's truth, and it's time that we start speaking the truth.
Singer Joyvilla was the talk of this year's Grammys.
Her I Make the Static album.
Pro-life singer. #1 on iTunes and Amazon. Political run maybe in her future.
Conservative woman who is sharing my beliefs, unifying for the country and unifying under our president. Swamp needs to be drained when Hollywood is just rehashing the same old thing and they're patting themselves on the back about it. I'd like to use the publicity for something positive. There's always going to be backlash whenever you make a bold statement, whenever you be yourself. And for me as an artist, I want to use my platform to really reach people on the level that I feel is real.
Pop culture, politics, and entertainment. This is the Joyvilla Show with your host, Joyvilla.